All right, guys, welcome back to the Addictively Speaking podcast. I'm your host, James, and tonight I have Judy Alessi, and she is the co-founder of the Christians Crew nonprofit organization, who is, funny enough, one of my now sponsors. We are working together to promote awareness for fentanyl poisonings, and we're just working together to promote recovery and help people in our communities. So Judy, thank you for coming on the podcast. I had Gabe on not too long ago, so I wanted to get you on. He said you're the one who's running the things. You got the numbers, you know all the stuff. So
Yeah.
I wanted to get you on to have a conversation about fentanyl awareness.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me and for having Gabe. Yep. I made it my mission the day my son died that I wanted to prevent another family from going through what we had to go through.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
that is that's a tough thing to go through. Um, so for the people who don't know, can you tell everybody, um, a little bit of backstory about what had happened to Christian?
Sure. Christian was my oldest son. He was 28 years old when he passed from fentanyl. He did have problem with drugs in the past before he
Mm,
passed away. I never knew. I was very naive back then. I never knew he had a problem until one Christmas Eve. He sort of flipped out when he saw gifts under the tree and said he didn't want gifts, he wanted money, and he was
oh,
going to take them all back. And then he broke down and said, I need help, that I'm addicted to Percocets at the time and
mm,
Xanax. So
mm,
that was my first knowledge of him using drugs. I couldn't believe it. He was a normal kid. Like, he never got in trouble with the law. He never got in trouble in school. I was so happy he made it through high school, without any trouble. And this was about when he was 24 years old, 25 years old, when I first found out. And we tried to get him into rehab right away, but his insurance, a lot of places wouldn't take it. And then he promised, Mom and Dad, I'll do it on my own. I'll be good. I'll be good. And he was for a few months. And then July came around and he got bad again. And we finally did get him a scholarship
mm.
into a recovery house a recovery facility in Florida. And he did go away for a month. And that was almost 3 years before he passed. And after that, he came home, and I did notice a difference as far as now looking back, I see the signs. I didn't then, because he
Yeah,
was borrowing money a lot, going through his money, and
yeah,
going in his room a lot, which I just thought that was him. But at
yeah.
this point, he met a girl, he had a good relationship, he really liked her, and he was really trying for her. She was very strict with him not doing it. She would randomly drug test him, and I loved that. I thought that was awesome.
Wow,
I
wow.
would,
She really that was good.
yeah,
That probably was good for him as well to like
I
keep him.
I loved it. I thought finally he found someone that's going to help, like, keep him good on the straight path. And he was doing good. Like, I don't know what happened the week before that he died. I remember it was a Sunday, and his girlfriend called me and said, I'm sending Christian home because he's high on something and he won't let me know what it is. He won't talk. He keeps telling me I'm not high. So he came home, and I could tell he was high. He was slurring his speech. And he finally said to me, Mom, I just took a couple Xanax. Like, it's no big deal. And I'm like, Christian, it is a big deal because you're in recovery. You're an addict. No, I'm not an addict. no, I'm not. Like, he never really considered himself
Embraced
a
it. Yeah.
embraced it.
Yeah.
Even though he had agreed to go away, he never really thought he thought that was it. Like, because I have a nephew, his cousin, that went to rehab one time, and he's now like over 10 years clean. So, and in my naivety, I thought that would be the same for Christian. And I used to attend meetings, not Christian. He wouldn't go, I would attend them. And
Yeah.
honestly, I stopped going because I felt guilty there, because some of the people, some of the things their kids were going through, it was horrible. Like living on
Yeah.
the streets and homelessness and getting arrested and being in jail. And I'm like, my son never went through that. He never even, like, I had a friend that their sons stole stuff from them. I met people that just horrible experiences that I never had. So I thought, he's doing good. Like, maybe it just would take one time to cure him. And in 2019, that's when he passed. I, at the time, didn't know that fentanyl was around. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And Sunday, and then he died Wednesday, and then Monday night, we had argued because he wanted to know what I told his girlfriend. And I told him, I told her not to take you back until you get your shit together. And he's, what mom would say that, you ruined my life, blah, blah, blah.
Oh.
Which at that time I knew that's not him talking, that's whatever he's taking talking.
Yeah.
And then the night before he actually died, he was great. He ran errands for me. He went and got me dinner at a fast food restaurant. And he did take a long time coming home. But we talked and we weren't arguing that night. And then the next morning, I was getting ready for work, and he came up from the basement and he sort of stumbled. And at first, I thought he was kidding with me because we've been arguing about him taking drugs. And the night before, I told him I would go to a meeting with him. And he said, Mom, if I go to a meeting, they'll just laugh at me if I get up and say I took 2 Xanax. And I said, no, they won't, Chris. That's what
Yeah.
it's there for.
Yeah.
So at first I went to like slap him, kiddingly, thinking he's joking around with me. Then he started talking, saying, Mom, I'm sick. I have to get in the bathroom. And I could tell he wasn't breathing right. So we got
Oh.
to the bathroom and I called 911 right away because I could tell he wasn't breathing. And I'm like, I guess he's having an overdose. I never knew what an overdose was. And he was throwing up.
Throwing up. Yeah.
Then I went upstairs to wake his brother, Gabe, from bed and get
Yeah.
him down. And then by the time we got down, he was already slumped over. And the 911, and I noticed the tips of his ears were purple. And the operator just
Oh.
said, get him on, put him flat, start CPR.
Yeah.
So I believe I started first. It's like a fog sometimes.
Mm.
And then I was just so like, where are the emergency personnel? I just want them here. And I was doing CPR, and then they're like, let someone take over. Is someone there? So Gabe took over, and I went outside and waited for the paramedics to get there. And they worked on him. They want me and Gabe in that same room. They worked on him, I guess, about 35 minutes, and took him to the hospital. And when we got to the hospital, the doctor just came out, and first thing he said to us was, did Christian have any kind of heart trouble? And my husband said, no, not that we know of. He said, because we gave him 5 epinephrine shots to his heart to bring him back, and he didn't come back. And then we just said, well, is he going to be okay? And the doctor said, no, he didn't make it. And then a few hours later, the detective came back to our house and said the preliminary results showed fentanyl. which at that day I never even knew what fentanyl was.
Yeah.
And it was
Wow.
just shocking. Like, I never thought, even when I was mad at him when he told me he was taking Xanax, I never thought he'd die from it. I just
Yeah.
never thought he'd actually die. It's just a nightmare.
I imagine he didn't either. I'm sure that
No,
he wasn't thinking that either. I mean,
no,
with
I'm
that,
sure.
I mean,
Yeah. I mean, the
he
day,
probably just thought 2 Xanax and it's normal and it's regular and I do this all the time and,
yeah.
I'll do what I usually do and sleep and wake up and I'll be fine again. Yeah.
And
Jeez.
apparently he had 110 mgs of fentanyl in his system and Xanax. So I'm assuming what he took was Xanax with just
Laced.
the Xanax lace, nothing else. At first, the detective had said it would probably thought it was heroin because he found little cut straws that I guess Christian had snorted whatever he took.
Right. Which is
But
typical of those type of situations, isn't it? They crush them up and they snort them.
yeah, so something happened those last week or so of his life that just sent him in another spiral, which I hear is part of recovery. Sometimes you do relapse, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, he didn't get a chance to get back to recovery.
That's a shame. That is
Mm,
that had to be a really difficult situation to go through. I
yeah,
mean, like as a parent, um, like you said, you were quite naive in the beginning and you didn't see all the signs. I'm sure now when you look back, you think, oh, there was a lot more red flags,
yeah,
and the knowledge you have now,
mhm,
of what happens, you are way better equipped and to deal with
mhm,
something like that because now you have all that knowledge, and before you just kind of didn't really pay attention to any of it.
yeah. And he was working every day. He worked side by side with my husband, and my husband
Very
couldn't.
functional.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But there were days I look back, like he would spend like the whole weekend in his room, or but
Hmm.
my kids always just played in their room, PlayStation, whatever. But then I look back, but he slept a lot, and
Right.
yeah, yeah,
A lot of signals there that kind of don't click until way
but
after the point,
mhm,
where it's too late. um so he did the rehab, yeah.
mhm,
um and you were thinking that was going to be the fix it, right? You thought that was going to be the fix it
mhm.
all. um you said it was just for 30 days.
Yes.
Is that only because that's what the funding was for? You could only do 30 days, or you couldn't
Yeah.
do any more than that? Yeah.
Yeah, this funding was just for 30 days, and actually most insurances in the United States only allow that much rehab, which is
That's great.
crazy. Yeah.
It's so sad. I mean, because
Yeah.
I mean, 30 days is a drop in the bucket, really, when it
Yeah.
comes to sobriety. I mean,
Yes.
30 days, I mean, it is an achievement, but still, like, if you're really going through some stuff, like, yeah, you should probably be, you know, longer stay than that.
Well, exactly. Plus, at least come home and work the program and go to meetings and get involved and do things like that. Especially, Christian had anxiety since he was a little kid.
Mhm.
Going to kindergarten was the first time I know, like, I'd drive him in the car and he'd throw up in the car going to school from
Oh,
being so nervous. And he was just nervous about everything. And I think that's probably why he liked the Xanax. It just helped
yeah.
calm him.
But couldn't he have gone to a doctor and actually got prescribed some,
He
like
did,
diazepam or something, not like Xanax, but like something
but
smaller, like something a little bit more,
yeah,
you
he
know?
went to, I had him because I work in healthcare. So I had him see a few doctors and they did like prescribe typical anxiety meds. but
Mhm.
but Christian never liked them because they took time to work in your system. Like,
Oh.
he wanted, like, that instant relief. He would say, "Mom, you know how it is. I can't shut my mind off. I just can't shut it down. I just wanna shut it off, whatever was in there." I have
Yeah,
anxiety too, so unfortunately, I
same.
passed it on to him.
Well, same, I have it. I deal with the
Mhm.
same stuff, that your mind doesn't shut down. I
Yeah,
haven't been actually sleeping quite right the last couple days because my mind is just going, and it's just like,
that's the
"Okay."
worst. Mhm.
Yeah, it is tough. And especially, like, if you're having, like, panic attacks and things like that, like, you do want, like, that instant, I had
Yeah.
panic attacks, like, back in the day. I had them
Mhm.
quite badly, with my drinking and stuff, and I'd have them quite frequently. So my mom always had, like, diazepam, like something, and
Mhm.
she would give it to me, and then, obviously, it would help me calm down and relax and fall asleep. But, like, yeah,
Yeah.
regular antidepressant, anti-anxiety, they take, like, what do they say, like, 6 months or something for 'em to build
Yeah.
up in your system and, like, start to
I
do it
mean, if you
well, not naturally, but
yeah, like 3 to 4 weeks to at least feel something, but
yeah.
yeah, and he actually did see a doctor for his addiction,
Mm,
who actually, after he was away at rehab, that was in December before he died, prescribed him Xanax, which was one of his drugs of choice, which
that seems so strange.
I didn't find that out until after he passed. I found the empty prescription bottle in his drawer that from the doctor because Christian was taking something called kratom. Have you heard of that?
I've never heard of that.
It's like a natural. It actually looked like weeds or grass,
Mm,
and he would take that like just by the spoonful with water,
mm,
and it's supposed to like stop your cravings for Percocets or opioids. And the addiction doctor said, "You have to get off of that. That stuff's going to kill you." So he prescribed him Xanax, but then we got a hold of the doctor and said he can't be taking that. So I don't know. Sometimes I wonder, did that start it all over again down the road? Like it
mm,
was 3 months later, 4 months later, but I don't
yeah.
know.
And the thing is too, like, he's getting a prescription for it, so it makes it okay to take it. It doesn't make it seem like it's a drug problem, does it?
Yeah.
Because you're being prescribed something,
Prescription-
but it's something
Exactly.
that's yeah, but it's something that you're doing damage to your life with. Probably not
Yes.
the best thing to do. Um, you said there was Percocet involved in this as well, so there was opioid and so he was doing opioids and, what's Xanax? A benz is it a benzo?
It's a
I don't know what
benzo.
it's a
Yeah,
benzo,
it's
isn't
a
it?
benzo.
Yeah. I was
Mhm,
thinking, well, I couldn't decide in my head whether I thought it was a benzo. So he's taking opioids and benzos.
mhm. Yeah,
That's a tricky combination there as well, I think.
yes,
And
and
that
I
probably
also
caused
yeah,
the
I heard
cardiac, the heart
what
rate,
yeah.
doesn't that
Well,
do
there
that, doesn't
was
it?
it could, but there was no, opioids in his system other than the
Just the
fentanyl.
just the
Just
fentanyl. But that I
fentanyl
mean, that's a
and Xanax, but,
fentanyl is quite potent.
yes, very. The medical examiner said Christian's amount was one of the highest he had seen in our county in New Jersey, Camden County,
Wow.
when he did that.
Ooh,
And he's like, I'm surprised that kid could walk up the steps of the basement, even with that amount of fentanyl in him. So
wow.
I don't know. It's just crazy. So that day, I just said, I remember people coming to my house, and everyone that came in, I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, but if I can prevent this from happening to just one family, I'll be happy because it was just a nightmare.
After it initially happened, like, what? what was it all like family-wise? Did you guys all band together? Did you guys all kinda take your time apart? Like, how did you guys deal with it as a family? 'Cause
Well,
sometimes that pulls people apart or it
or
either pulls them together.
uh,
Yeah, so there's, like, 2 ways you can go with it.
yeah. Like my immediate family, just Gabe and my husband. My husband sort of
Mhm.
stayed by himself down in the basement for a few days
Yeah.
because that's just the way he is. And Gabe was pretty good, like with me and my brother, my sister, all my family came over that day. They checking in on us every day, and so many friends showed up. They've all been really good to us. But my main goal was Gabe. Like I'm like, I have to be good for Gabe. I didn't want to lose our family over what happened to Christian and him think like I no longer have like a happy family
Mm.
or it's hard to explain. It was just like my main focus was just being like I still got to be a mother to Gabe and he deserves to go on and have a happy life and not see his parents just moping around in bed every day.
Yeah. Well, me it must have been, quite a lot to deal with. I mean, having the wherewithal to, like, know that within yourself as a person takes a lot, that's a special thing that you didn't you know, it's like that fight or flight, like, your
Mhm.
body tells you either you run or
Mhm.
whatever. So, like, it's good that you knew you had the wherewithal to be like, I still have one son that I need to, you know, be there for and be
Mm, yeah.
a
Mhm.
around and do things, and, um, was that difficult? Like, did you have days where it was tough to just kinda keep pulling yourself forward?
Yeah, like I never wanted to cry in front of anyone. I mean, I did in that very beginning, but then weeks later it would like I would just cry on my own or like the car was the worst or the shower. Couple
Mm,
times I even went into the woods and just like screamed and cried and just let out my anxiety and broke it
yeah,
like wood, broke up little old pieces of trees and I just didn't want them to see me like that.
yeah. Um So after he passed, how long after Christian passed did you guys decide, we're going to take this tragedy and turn it into something?
Well, he passed in March, and that coming December was our first unofficial Christian's crew. We adopted a family for Christmas. And I said I was going to do that every year because my boys always had the best Christmas. They got everything they wanted. Everything on the list they ever wanted, they would get. Like they were two spoiled boys, especially Christian. He was probably the most spoiled by my husband. And I wanted like another family to have just a big Christmas in his memory. And it worked out. I had so many people help. It just amazed me how generous people are. And then we talked. I kept saying I wanted to get this nonprofit together and we were talking different fundraisers we could do and different things. And then finally, we came up with the cornhole tournament, which last April was our first. So it did take
Hmm.
about 3 or 4 years before we actually got the nonprofit together, all the paperwork done.
Yeah, does that is it for anybody who doesn't know, like starting a nonprofit is not one of the easiest things to do. There's a lot of paperwork involved.
Paperwork.
Yeah. So well, you're in New Jersey, so
New
I'm from
Jersey, yeah,
Pennsylvania. Yeah,
yeah.
so I had a friend who was trying to do it in PA, and it was taking forever because you have to get all this paperwork together to
Hmm.
start a
Yeah.
nonprofit. Did you find it difficult to get everything together and get everything ready, or was it just more time consuming?
It was more time consuming. It wasn't actually as hard as I thought it was going to be. Like
Mm.
I just kept putting it off, and then I finally just sat down and went through it and just did it. And then, besides just opening the nonprofit in your state, then you have to also get certified through the IRS. So that was paperwork we just filed this past year
Mm.
to be a confirmed like nonprofit. And that wasn't too bad either. I'm surprised I did it and it went through in a couple of weeks. So I'm like, oh, I did good.
You got
It's
it all
just getting
done.
your mind to do it. Like the first couple of years, it took me a while because you got to get through the hardest part of that grief
Yeah.
process. But I think if you turn it, like I feel like helping others helps me feel better. We talk about Christian all the time now. Even my husband's open about him, talks about him. And yeah, it's just something we said we're always going to do.
I think that's great because it's like now you're making his legacy. His legacy is now that nonprofit. That nonprofit holds his name, and that you can carry that forward. I thought that was the most compelling thing for me when I talked to Gabe. Was like, what a great thing to come from such a tragedy. Like you guys can
Mm,
really do some good with it, and that's like paying homage to him as a person as well. And I've never met him. I don't know him, but
mhm.
it just connected with me for some reason. And I just thought, like it'd be really great to partner up with you guys and do
Yeah,
what we can to help each other somehow. Spread the word of recovery
yeah.
and to
I
help
would
people
say
wherever we can, however we can.
yeah. I do a lot of other things too. I belong to different groups on Facebook.
Yeah.
One is this actually, we are getting together on Saturday for we call them treats instead of retreats, like
Mm.
treating parents to a good day of just friendship and fun. And it's from people from South Jersey, and we're meeting at a restaurant on Saturday just to talk and get to know each other and not discuss any future plans or anything like that. So that's happening. And I went to a big march in Washington last September, and I'm going again in July. That's for the Lost Voices of Fentanyl. And they
Oh
have,
wow. Okay.
it's really great right at the monument. There's all speakers there. And then we marched to the White House trying to get like something done about the fentanyl just pouring into the country.
Yeah.
And I went to the DEA Family Summit this past year, which was very interesting. I learned a lot of information on how they work, trying to catch, these fentanyl dealers, and now they're being charged with murder
And they
in a
should
lot
be.
of states. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. That's. I mean, it is becoming quite a problem in the States, the amount of fentanyl getting in, and I think it's a lot of it's I don't know if I'm correct, but I think a lot of it's coming from China, I wanna say?
Yeah. They call it the precursors are made in
Mhm.
China, and
Right.
then it is sent to Mexico, and then they form it into different pills or late put it in marijuana, whatever the cartel. This we're speaking of the cartel, and then it's
Okay.
coming through the border,
Oh,
and
okay.
it's
So there's
like,
so it's coming from China, going to Mexico, being produced into product, and then shipped over.
mm-hmm, yep, getting through.
Okay.
Daily. I mean, there's said if you could imagine how many people are dying from it, it's like a plane crashing, falling out of the sky every day, crashing. Over 200 people a day, almost up to 300 people a day dying from fentanyl right now.
From fentanyl overdoses. That's
Hmm.
insane.
Yes.
That's so crazy.
And
300 people a
babies.
day.
Yes. Hmm. And you don't really hear much about it on the news. You know, if a plane crashed every day with that amount of people on it, it would be all over. But we don't
Mm.
hear anything. It's happening to some celebrities now, and we hear that, but just us plain old people, really nothing.
It's strange because they had they talked a lot about um, the opioid epidemic that was
Mm,
in the States for a long time, and they made a big fuss about it. I don't understand why there's not a lot of focus on the fentanyl that's coming in and stuff like that because it's killing loads of people, and it's a lot of people are getting it in other
yeah,
drugs that they would normally take and not knowingly ingest it and die.
right.
Um, like getting hot shots of it.
Exactly.
Which is the thing is that people are going out and purchasing the regular drugs that they would normally take and then end up with a lethal amount of fentanyl
What's
and
that?
die instantly, you
And such
know?
a small amount will kill you, like the tip of your a pencil. Like 2 grains of
Really?
salt can kill you if you're not accustomed to taking it.
Yeah, it's my mom had a rheumatoid arthritis and she had I remember before she passed away, she had patches,
Mm-hmm.
fentanyl, fentanyl patches, right? The time release gel, I think they are.
Right.
Um, and it came and she said this is very potent stuff. She told me about it, and she was just saying, it's dosed in micrograms. I read the packaging, micrograms, because
Programs.
I think it's like 1,000 times more potent than heroin or morphine,
Yeah,
like
I
that.
think
That
like a hundred times more
oh, 100,
potent than,
yeah,
yeah,
100
than
times,
morphine. Yes. And
yeah.
that, speaking of the fentanyl, that is the only thing I ever heard of in the past is fentanyl patches. I've
Hmm.
never heard of it in recreational drugs.
I don't really remember when I heard about it. My mom said because she had full-time like carers that came in.
Hmm.
She said she had to keep them away because people would steal them and sell them, and they would like lick them or like hold them
Yeah,
to get the gel out.
yeah,
And I said, I said to her, I said, "Are you serious?" And she said, "Yeah." I said,
yeah.
I was like, they would lick the time release gel, and she's like, I don't know. That's one of the girls told me that, and I was like, well, that's insane. She's like,
I
well,
think,
it's
yeah,
really
I've
potent, and I was
seen
like,
that
oh, okay.
too. I think they also might have came in some kind of lollipop type of
Oh,
thing, because I
really?
would remember seeing people with them in their mouth and asked what it was, and but like they were for really severe pain or cancer
Yeah.
patients or
Yeah, yeah,
operation.
yeah.
I believe in
Y
some operations they use it, but it's at least it's the prescribed and
Yeah, but
it's the right
it's
amount, but
administered properly. It's
properly.
administered by a doctor, and
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you can't compare, like, the medical stuff, what
Medical
they
stuff.
use medically to
Yeah.
what somebody's shipping from China to Mexico to the US. I mean, there's so many how many times is that stepped on or changed or cut with something else? I mean, who
Else,
knows? I mean,
who
they
knows
cut it to stretch it, so, I mean, you never know what it's being cut with and what it's being mixed with to make whatever you're
what?
ingesting.
Yeah, it could be anything. I heard like elephant tranquilizer goes into different drugs. That new drug that's on the market that's called Trank,
Oh, okay. Never heard of
and
it.
it actually eats your skin away. So
Right.
that's the new thing coming out. Is even more potent than fentanyl.
Wow.
So at first they did create fentanyl strips to test your drug before you took it, but
Mhm.
now that's not even accurate because I learned this. They said, imagine fentanyl, the pill you're taking is like a chocolate chip cookie, and you take a bite out of it,
Mhm.
and there's no chip in that part. So that part's safe. But then you take another bite, and you get the
And the other
chocolate
side's
chip. So you can't even really test these fentanyl test with them because they may not be accurate either. And I'm not sure
Wow.
how many people would take the time to test. I guess they might. I'm not sure.
I mean,
And
I
then,
imagine people that are taking pills aren't gonna test what they're
mm-mm,
taking. They'll just
mm-mm,
take the chance. I mean, it's one of those things where like prescription medication, it becomes like this thoughtless thing you do. You just take a pill and you don't really
yeah,
think about what it is, or or even when they're crushing it up, like you don't know what it's been, how it's been made.
no,
Especially if you buy
mm-mm,
it on the street, like you're not buying it from a
mm-mm.
pharmacist. It's not coming from a company that only produces, like a Xanax pill comes from a company, like a pharmacy company, and that's
Like,
all they
yeah,
produce. All goes
yes,
down
and
the line.
in a clean environment too. Some of these
Yeah, I
pills are
mean,
being made out in the jungle somewhere in
yeah,
some made up lab. God knows
yeah,
what's in
and
there.
they're being pressed and they're being pushed and they're. I mean, you have no idea.
Mm-mm.
You have
And
no
it's
idea.
seven this year now. It's 7 out of 10 pills have a lethal dose of fentanyl in them.
7 out of 10.
Hmm.
I mean, it doesn't
So
mean
your
that
odds aren't good.
your odds are horrible. That is horrible odds.
And even for
That
the
is,
first time user, it's happening to so many young kids that are just ordering Adderall and they're getting it delivered over Snapchat. They have a whole code of like different things they use and to order different pills, and it gets delivered to their dorm rooms or their houses, and it's has fentanyl in it, and they die the first time trying. I mean, babies breathing it in next to people that are using and dying. It's
wow.
crazy. In New York, we had the babies die in the daycare. They were playing on the floor over. I don't. You probably didn't hear that in England.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, they were the daycare where they kept the drugs underneath this hidden panel with a rug on it, and that's where the babies would play. And the babies died or were rushed to the hospital with fentanyl overdoses.
Oh my God.
Hmm.
Well,
It's really potent.
I hope those people are in jail that ran that daycare, because
Yeah,
Jesus,
yeah.
that
They
is,
got out of there real quick.
yeah, my God.
It's horrible. It's just horrible. I sometimes feel like it's a war on America. A lot of us moms feel that way. Like they're taking out our whole young generation.
I mean,
I don't.
it is a scary thing. I mean,
Mhm.
because, you know, I think too, like the pharmaceutical companies should take a lot of responsibility for the stuff that they've done with the
It's.
overprescription of OxyContin and opioids. If you go
Mhm.
anywhere else in the world, they don't hand them out like candy like in the US. The US hands them out like they're. I just had a surgery for a hernia recently, and I had the medication to put me to sleep and to keep me sedated, right? And I
Mhm.
came home and they were just like, just normal painkillers. That's it. No other. I have like a, I don't know, maybe like a 2-inch incision on my stomach
Mhm.
with stitches. No other pain medicine than like ibuprofen
Like or Tylenol, like
and
aspirin or.
Tylenol. Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
god.
Just like over the counter stuff.
Yeah,
Nothing.
it
I mean, I feel
started.
like in America, they do that. They're like, and here's some Vicodin for the next 10 days.
Yeah.
Like,
They did get a little stricter with it in the
yeah,
past few years since the big Purdue pharmaceutical,
yeah,
and they actually started this whole crisis.
yeah. The
They
whole thing
lied
kind of
about they lied to doctors, they lied to patients about it being addictive. And when people were saying it
highly
wasn't
addictive.
working, like give them more, give them a higher
Prescribe
dose.
more. Prescribe higher doses.
I know a lot of states actually got money from the pharmaceutical to help try to fight
what to
off
build
this opioid
what to build
epidemic.
rehab centers and stuff. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Well, I
And
know.
it's shame a lot of the rehab centers and all that are scams too. They scam
Really,
people to get there. Yeah, there's a lot of different things, and
it's a
they
shame.
take advantage of the most vulnerable people.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
So, what does the future for Christian's Crew look like? What are you looking to do in the future in the next, say, 6 months to a year? What are you guys looking to do?
Well, we want to help even more people get into recovery. I just helped a young girl with some of her sober living fees. I'm just finding out how expensive even the sober living houses are that these people go to. So I would like to help more with that. And just really, my main mission is just to get out there and spread the awareness and get into the schools. I'm really looking forward to doing that. And I hope that they'll accept us in. Some of the schools might be harder to get in. They have some of their own programs, but I think maybe if we go more towards the private schools, we'll be able to get in. And
Hmm.
just educate these kids. Like, it's not just the addicts you see out on the streets, like in Kensington or Camden, where I live. It's
Yeah.
everyday people,
Yeah. And
lawyers,
as people
even
that
doctors,
that
like, yeah, people you
yeah.
know and love. There's not many people that I know of, I should say, that actually haven't been affected by some form of addiction, opioids, alcohol, whatever.
Mhm.
Almost in every family I know.
Yeah. I mean, it is one of those things, is I think is important is to get into schools and talk to young kids because honestly, I think with recovery and with addiction and things like that, like the goal is to just hit one person. You just got to hit that one person that needs it at that time, like that are open. They're open to it. They're waiting for that moment to hear somebody say what they need to hear.
Hmm.
I used to do speaking in schools. I did it with a group that I was part of in Pennsylvania. I did it. I think I did it 3 times
Mm.
with tenth grade students.
Oh,
So
that's
probably like
awesome. Yeah.
16 years old. Yeah. Um, so yeah, so it's I think it's so beneficial that those kids are just aware that that uh, it can start out like all fun and games, but it can
Hmm.
also turn on a dime and you could end up throwing your life away and not
Yeah.
knowing how to get the hell out of it, you know? But also seeing that there are people that have gotten out of it and that have made a life for themselves and succeeded and done things they never thought they'd do. Um, but yeah, I think it's highly important. So I hope you guys do get into school so you can spread some of that awareness because you know being a kid nowadays, it's so easy to get a hold of things and with social media and
Yes.
it's easy to get
Yeah.
a hold of drugs or get a hold of people who can get a hold of drugs. And
Drugs.
if you're not aware of the situation, 7 out of 10 pills has a
Yeah.
lethal dose of fentanyl, and you're messing with it with the first time when you're 16-year-old kid, you could be dead the next day. So
Yeah. It's
that is
crazy.
terrifying stuff.
Scary and scary as a parent. But
Mm,
a lot of parents don't know. A lot it's I where I work, I have a sign up at work about fentanyl, one pill can kill, and do you know where your next pill's coming from? And so many people open that conversation. Like, some people say, well, what's fentanyl? And then other people will tell me they're in recovery, and they sit and talk to me forever at work. And I love hearing their stories of what they're doing and how, far they've come. And everyone I ever talk to are like, oh, if you ever go into schools and want someone to talk, I'll tell my story. I just want to help people. And I think that's
yeah.
what happens. You just want to
Yeah, I
go out
think
and help people.
it's a common thing among people in recovery. We find it like a mission in our life to help people to go and share our story. Um, you know, I just think it's beneficial to me in my recovery. That's why I do this podcast, is so I can, I can give back a little. Hopefully I give back to somebody. Somebody hears something.
Yeah, you
And
do.
I'm giving everybody a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and they can all take what they want from it. And hopefully it helps.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. I like listening to the podcast. I
I
love
appreciate
listening to
it.
people in recovery. And I guess that's what Christian instilled in me. Like, I'm taking over his mission. He didn't live to do it, and I'm doing it for him.
Yeah,
Because I
and you're
know,
gonna help people.
yeah. hmm Yeah, and they're so very appreciative of any little amount we can give. I mean, I wish I had could pay their whole year's rent, but
Hmm.
unfortunately, it's a lot of money. But every little we help, we give food, anything we can, and that's
Yeah,
my
that's
mission.
amazing.
And we also
That's
give a little memorial award to the high school that Christian graduated from. Someone on the
oh,
golf team because he loved golf,
okay. That's
and
amazing.
yeah, he that's what he was doing the day before he died. He was on the golf course.
Really?
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. So I know he didn't want to die. Like you wouldn't be out golfing and then
Yeah,
wanted
and
to,
it was worried about his girlfriend and things like that. I
mm,
think he wasn't
mhm.
expecting that to happen. I don't think anybody ever does when something like that happens. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just when
Mm-mm.
you do stuff like that, I guess there's just like a crapshoot, isn't there? It's just,
Mm.
Russian roulette, really. You're just spinning the
Especially
barrel
now.
and this one might have missed you, but the next one might get you. So you just
Yeah.
have to be aware of what you're doing. Um, so you have another cornhole tournament coming up, I think,
Yes,
don't
in
you?
April
In
14th.
April.
Yes.
April
Mm-hmm.
14th.
Yeah.
All right, guys. If you're
So we're already,
listening and you're in the
yeah.
Jersey area, get
Yes.
to the Christian's
Come join us.
Crew cornhole tournament. Yeah, come
A
join
lot of
them.
fun
Have some.
last year. Yeah. We had a lot
Yeah,
of
I can
fun, a lot
imagine.
of great baskets to um, give away. We have cash prizes for the first three winners of the cornhole. So it was fun. It was a good time. A lot
Nice.
of friends coming together.
Yeah. And all if you are wanting to donate to the cause, all the links will be posted at the end of the videos and everything like that. So you can go and donate to Christian's Crew. It is a nonprofit organization. Christian's family is the she Judy did all the work. She got all the stuff with the IRS. So
Yeah.
all your money is
But
going to
yeah.
a great cause. It's going to help people in recovery. It's
And Gabe
you
is my
know
big helper. He's my social media helping me that way. I even
yeah.
wanted him to come over today in case I couldn't get on and show me. So he does a lot. Like he just comes out and does these little fundraisers on his own with his wrestling t-shirts and stuff. And like I'm like, oh, I can't like that's so nice of him. He's a big help.
Yeah, when I talked to him, he said, like I asked him because 'cause he's a pro wrestler. The kid's a pro
Yeah.
wrestler. I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah.
Um, I just thought, I said, would you ever want to do like a fundraiser, like a wrestling event? And he was like, oh my God. He's like, that's the dream.
I know.
He's like, it's just a lot of, insurance purpose,
Fun.
like insurance
Yeah.
things. Oh man, it'd be so great to get that together. Like
I would love
honestly,
that. That might be
yeah,
our
that'd be
next mission to work on. Work
really,
on with
uh,
him. I would love that too. And my family,
yeah.
all my family, my cousins, my nieces, nephews, their kids are all big wrestling fans. My
I mean,
brother,
pro wrestling's a
everyone.
draw.
Yeah,
Pro wrestling is a draw, man. I mean, if you wanted to do a fundraiser, like a big fundraiser, I mean, that would be the one to do, I would say.
yeah,
I know a
yeah,
lot of people that love pro wrestling. I grew up watching it.
yeah.
So I know people that do a lot of stuff in pro wrestling. I have a friend that's a pro wrestler that I grew
Oh,
up with.
awesome. Yeah.
Um, Actually, Gabe knows him.
Oh,
They know each other
yeah.
through
It's a small
wrestling.
world.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's kind of
small
crazy.
world.
But yeah, like that'd be an amazing fundraiser. So hopefully one day you guys can
Yeah,
throw that together. That'd be really
yeah,
great.
yeah. That's a great idea. I like that.
Well, Judy, I
Yeah.
appreciate you coming on. Is there anything else that you wanted to, any messages you want to get out there before we wrap things up?
I just want people to, if they have a problem, don't be ashamed. Like, we got to get rid of that stigma. Just talk to your mom. Your mom will be your biggest supporter, whether you think of it or not. Moms always have your back, no matter what. Just ask for help. And don't experiment with drugs nowadays. It's Russian roulette.
Very dangerous,
Mm.
yes.
Mhm.
Um, at the end of my episodes, I like to do, you're not in recovery, but I usually do three things you can't go without in your recovery. What are like three things that you need to get through every day? You know, could be like meditation, reading a book, journaling. Three things that you need.
Mm. That's a good one. Um, well, believe it or not, I do have to get through my work day because work is another thing that saved me after this tragedy. Get my mind
Mm,
busy with work.
okay,
And then spending time with my family.
that's two.
That's two. And let's see. And then just at night, relaxing with my dog, my heavenly sent dog. He came to
There
us
you
after
go.
Christian died, and I think he was sent by Christian. He's a really special dog.
See, those are three good things. Those are
Yeah,
three good things.
yeah. Family
Well,
is all that matters.
it's very important. Very important thing.
Yeah,
Uh, well, Judy, I appreciate you coming on the podcast.
I appreciate you.
I'm so glad that we've kind of like partnered up now, and we're going to be doing more stuff together, hopefully, and spreading the word of Christian's crew,
Okay,
and
thank you.
continue to just show each other support in the recovery community, and help each other grow, and just be out there helping each other whenever we
Mhm.
can.
Yep, sounds good. Thanks
All right. Well,
again.
thank you. Oh, no problem.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'll be sharing your stuff